if I introduce who we are and what we do.
Great.
So the Isle of Wight is a little island about 5 miles off of the south coast. And this slide shows the average energy efficiency of the properties on the island. So dark green here is good. And as you get to the more yellowy, orangey colours, it's bad because we have very old housing stock. So Green Isle of Wight, we are a community interest company. We're set up to run local projects that cut carbon and improve daily life. So our kind of key tagline is helping people make their homes warmer and cheaper to heat. So last year we had over 4,500 people attend our outreach sessions on the island. We provided individual personalised advice to over 700 households, and a large proportion of these were through home visits to people. And about half of them we actually installed easy energy saving things like changing out old light bulbs for new light bulbs, fitting draft proofing measures. But we've found that these are kind of one-off things. And what we want to do is lower bills over time for people. So rather than a quick fix or a sticking plaster approach that an energy voucher might be, we want to make it easier for households to save money on electricity, especially those who need it most. On the island, we produce a lot of solar power in the summer, so we want to keep as much of that on the island as possible. And I'll come on to the reasons why in a minute, but also make it a fair transition so that this project will be community owned and all of the benefits will be put back into the community. So it's not just for people that can afford to buy the new tech. So if we look at what the actual problem is, this is a brief overview of the national grid as it stands on the Isle of Wight. Each of those little electricity symbols shows where our primary substations are. And the fact that they're all red shows that there are constraints. So we have an aging infrastructure over here. You then look at the fuel poverty over here. For the south of England, it's on average 9.65%. On the Isle of Wight, it's 13.13. But these figures don't actually give you the true picture. This is based on the government's method of calculating it. If you take wider estimates based on 10% of household income, that puts the level of fuel poverty closer at 30%. So the DESNZ figures are based on quite a narrow definition. So we also have an ageing population. I think something like 35% of the adults on the island, or the population on the island, are over 65. We have lower than average incomes. We've recently been ranked as one of the most left behind areas in the UK. And as that picture showed, we are an island with limited power connections. We do only have 3 cables linking us to the mainland. So what can we actually do about it? So our project is a network of home batteries that will work together like one big shared community battery. So they'll be installed in multiple homes across the island. We'll have software controlling the charging and discharging of the batteries, and they can work together like one big system. So the savings and value are actually shared locally. So what I have next is a short animated video that will explain the project to you.
Across the Isle of Wight, rising energy costs and grid pressure are making electricity less fair and reliable for households, schools, and small businesses. At peak times, electricity is more expensive and carbon intensive. Many islanders don't have access to technology that could help them take control. Power Together changes this by installing smart batteries that store clean, low-cost energy and use it when grid electricity is most expensive or under strain. By linking these batteries together through the Fairer Warmth platform, many small systems act as one powerful island-wide energy asset. As a virtual power plant, Power Together supports the national grid and earns flexible revenues, helping to stabilise supply while bringing value back to our community. Households, schools and small businesses all benefit. Many low-income households will receive systems for free or at a reduced cost. Power Together is community-owned. Through a local share offer, islanders co-own the system, keeping value here on the Isle of Wight. And the model can be replicated in communities across the UK. Together, we can build an energy system that is fair, affordable and owned by the people it serves. Welcome to Power Together.
But what it does, it allows us to store excess electricity that's available when it's cheap, so that it can be used when electricity is expensive. And it's aimed at people that wouldn't typically be able to afford batteries and solar, and people that might not have properties that are suitable for solar. So with the house batteries, we can install them for people that have flats as well as people that have houses. So typically they are people that wouldn't be able to benefit from a lot of the other schemes. So it helps people lower their bills. By helping people lower their bills, it means that they can afford to heat their homes properly. Because one thing we notice when we do a lot of our home visits is that people just cannot afford to put the heating on. So if we can save people money in one area, they can use it to help heat their homes during the winter. And then any surplus benefits are put into community projects, so various energy advice, home upgrades for people, and future projects, funding more batteries so that more people can take part. So we've got 3 different cohorts of people that can take part. We've got households, so people can have home batteries, and it's quite I'd say a supported process, because a lot of the people on the island here aren't necessarily tech savvy. And maybe, I don't think it's just on the island. I think government quite often assume that if you put something online, it makes it accessible to everyone. But the reality we've found is that it doesn't. And we've got the Warm Homes Grant local funding that can fund some batteries for people. And it's no good just installing a battery for somebody and expecting them to know how to operate it, how to make the most out of it. We have to help people do that. So that's what this project is. It allows people to get the financial rewards that they should from having the battery, that they won't necessarily if they're just left to their own devices. We're looking at funding batteries in community buildings. So a large battery in a cricket club or a community hall, we can then get benefit from that. And I'll go on in a minute and show you how the revenue stack for this works out. But that battery in that community building can help spread those benefits locally to other people that for one reason or another may not be able to take part in the project. And some small businesses can also join our project. So we're finding businesses that could benefit by having a battery. And a lot of businesses on the island are kind of owner-occupier businesses where it's a very small business run by 1 or 2 people. And like a lot of businesses across the island, they're also struggling. So if we help businesses as well, We help them stay profitable, which means they actually stay in business, which helps with employment on the island, which again means people have more money to spend and can afford to pay their energy bills and heat their homes. So we look at it as various building blocks for our income. So the first one, which is just using electricity when it's cheap, charging when it's cheap and using electricity when it's more expensive. So typically we've seen this with tariffs like the old Economy 7 tariff overnight, but now we're getting a lot more interactive tariffs where the energy price will change on a half-hourly basis, and we can trigger all of the batteries to charge or discharge based on either the cost of energy that we're buying or the amount that we will be paid for putting that energy back to the grid. And then at a national level, by having these batteries that can operate like one big battery, sometimes the national grid just needs a bit of help for, it could be 5 or 10 seconds to balance a particular issue on the system. So having that capacity available, there is a financial benefit for that. And then supporting our local network. So as we say here, soaking up extra solar, because the solar capacity of the island is about half of its total winter usage. So in the summer, we're reliant on those cables back to the mainland to export all of that electricity back. Now, if those cables look like they're going to become overloaded, the local network operator will turn off effectively some of the solar farms, so they won't be able to export their electricity. So if we can trigger our batteries to soak that up, then that means that energy isn't wasted. And we're also talking to SSEN about looking at the loading on the secondary substations, because on the island, most of them don't have any monitoring on them. So the only time that they know that they are getting near capacity and overloaded is actually when they start to overheat. So each of them has something that looks like a greenhouse thermometer there with a maximum and a minimum value on it. And it's only by somebody going and looking at that and seeing, yes, this secondary substation is getting too hot. That means the loading on it is getting too high. That's the only method they have for knowing that. If we can put batteries around a secondary substation that is showing problems like that, we can trigger those batteries to charge when the energy is freely available and then discharge back into the house, and therefore reduce the load on that secondary substation during peak periods. The other thing we've found is that this is a very quick changing industry, and that there are new opportunities arising all of the time with different markets and services opening up. So we're looking at how we can incorporate all of that. So how does it help the local grid? As I said, the solar can exceed grid capacity and the evening demand strains the network. Upgrades are very slow and very expensive, and they're not a given. And SSEN are working at the moment on their plans for ED3, which is the next 5-year period that will come in from 2028. If there's no new subsea cable in there for the Isle of Wight, we're going to start running into a lot of constraint issues over here. So with our project, it means excess solar can be stored locally, and stored energy supports peak demand. And we can reduce some of the pressures on our network without necessarily having to wait for major upgrades. So why do we do all of this? We're doing this for people because whatever happens in this country, we need people to be able to afford to heat their homes properly. We need people to have affordable energy, and we need this transition to be fair. And at the moment, it isn't. If you've got the money and you can afford to buy all of this technology, then you can reduce your energy bills substantially. And at home, we've done this ourselves. We've got solar panels, we've got batteries, we've got a heat pump, and it has cut thousands of pounds off of our energy bill each year. If you don't have that money to start with, you don't have the opportunity to make those savings, and that's not fair. So what we want to do is to try and even out the playing field a little bit. It won't go all the way, and we can't help everyone. But if we can help people like Derek here afford to be able to heat his home, he was heating it just with a log burner because he's in an all-electric house and couldn't afford to put the heating on during peak times. We have to be able to make people's lives better, and that's what we're aiming for. So at this point, I think that is the final slide. I will say, are there any questions?
Lisa, that's absolutely amazing, and what a revelation. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions here. We've got Rick here from Carbon Copy. We've got Dan here from Community Energy, for Sustainable Energy, who's got his hand up first. And I noticed that we had a discussion that the idea of people clubbing together in the streets to have their own deals in a streetwide basis has been an idea for a while, but has never really taken off anywhere. But this is something that sort of avoids all that, and the just transition of it is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Dan, you're first up. After Dan, I'll go to Rick after Dan. But Dan, your question, sir.
Yeah, thanks. That was great. What a fantastic project. Questions I had were, how far is your project along, and what have been the sort of greatest barriers for you in getting the project going? And just, if people aren't aware, there's a call for evidence on the case for community batteries that's live at the moment. I really encourage you to all respond to it. Yours sounds like a great case study to put forward, Lisa.
Thank you. At the moment, we are onboarding the first few people. We've raised some money for some trial batteries. So we are opening it up to people that might already have batteries, because lots of people have gone out and have them installed, but don't necessarily know how to make the most out of them. That will give us, hopefully, the data that we need to finish the financial modelling, because at the moment, everything that we've done on the how much income each person will save has been a numbers-based exercise. But we're now moving into the putting it into real homes with real people and helping them with that. The biggest obstacles has actually been working with the district network operator and the aggregators that we need to work with to actually tie it all together. We're working with the Centre for Energy Equality, who are writing all of the software behind it. So we'll be using their Fairer Warmth platform as part of it. So people don't just get a battery, it will be wrapped up with a whole load of energy advice as well. And we've been talking to the consortium from Portsmouth that covers the Isle of Wight for the Warm Homes Local Grant to try and make sure that for every battery that is installed that is grant funded, that the people are given the information about our project, so that we can help them get on to the best tariff and also give them the opportunity to join if they choose to maximise the financial benefits from their batteries.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much. Great. Rick, after Rick, we'll go to Stuart. Rick.
Thanks very much. Lisa, amazing. Amazing project, amazing work. So it was two questions. The first was actually to understand where you were in the rollout. So it's obviously
Yeah.
relatively early. And then just to clarify, in terms of the rollout, you're going after initially those people that already have the households already have electricity generating capacity and batteries. But you mentioned that the project is intended to help alleviate some of the fuel poverty. So you're
Yes.
starting with those that have, because the infrastructure is in place, and then building it out to the people
That's
that
the
don't.
plan. Yes. And it's not just people that have energy generating capacity. The plan has always been to put batteries into the homes of people that don't have and can't have solar, because we have a large number of flats on the island that won't ever be able to have solar panels on the roof, but would be able to have a battery at home. Then we'll be using the income from the project to fund further batteries, along with a community share raise. We've set up a community benefit society that will handle this project, so that we can raise the capital through a community share raise. There will most probably be 2 or 3 different stages of that. There'll be one stage initially, I think, to cover some of the community batteries that we want to put in place at places like local cricket club and a community hall, because that gives us the biggest immediate benefit. And then we'll use the additional income that those batteries create to fund the smaller batteries that we'll be providing for free for people.
Thank you. Thank you.
All your answers, Lisa, is making the whole project even more impressive. Thank you. Stuart, your turn, sir.
I'd just like to say thank you. Amazing bit of work. And does the island have mains gas?
It has some. About 40% of the island isn't connected to mains gas. We still have about 2,000 properties on the island that have oil heating.
Yeah.
We have about 2,500 use bottled gas, and the remainder of the off-grid properties primarily use electricity. So that's the old style night storage heaters. We do still have, I think it's now down to less than 50 properties that burn coal for their heating.
Okay, thanks. And how does the metering actually work for the individuals?
People have to have a smart meter.
Yeah.
And that gives us the half-hourly readings. But the batteries and inverters also monitor how much energy and when is imported and exported. And it's from that we get a lot of our data. But it's splitting the revenue between what goes directly to the household, because our estimates show that each household should be able to get between £100 and £300 a year reduction on their energy bill through this. And then the project will make most of its money from the aggregation of the flexibility markets and the income from that.
Wow.
Yeah.